Okay, guys, Adam Trigger here on the clock. It is Thursday. It's now Thursday afternoon. Apologies. I try to get these going in the morning, but a little bit slow this morning for me. I didn't get back home from Rhode Island until like 2:45 in the morning. So wasn't feeling great when I woke up. A little bit behind this morning, but we're going to get it done. We got it done on the show yesterday, 3-1. So now, so far this week, 4 packs of plays for on the clock or wager talk today, and all three of them have gone 3-1. So it's hard to do much better than that. Hopefully we can go 4-0. I'm going to keep the same format, and that's what we're going to go for today. So we'll throw 90 seconds on the clock, and we'll get right to it. And my marquee matchup of today is going to be Purdue Rutgers, mostly because I want to talk about this one. There's a couple of games that you could say are roughly the same, but I've got to bring this game up because I came on WagerTalk programming last week, said this was going to be the week for Rutgers. They've got all these home games. This would be the week that you want to start playing Rutgers, and it just has not been the case. And I don't even think I necessarily want to play here. I do lean that way. That's going to be my pick for the sake of giving a pick in this segment. But I guess what keeps me off of a client player are a couple things. So I do think you'll have Dylan Harper back to what he typically is. He was battling a nasty stomach bug. Obviously didn't look to be himself on Monday, but that's now 3 more days. I think he's probably fine. But there's no line value for Rutgers in this game. I was shocked when this was 1.5. I thought I would have gotten like Rutgers after getting bombed by Wisconsin on Monday. I was certain that I would get something like Rutgers +4, Rutgers +4.5. I mean, this was 1.5 an hour ago. It looks like it's 2. It looks like it's actually 2.5 now. So maybe it starts to trend in that direction. But at 2.5, it can only be a lean. My concern with Rutgers is Steve Pikiell kind of, I feel like he went away from what he normally does to have success to accommodate the star players, in this case, Bailey and Harper. This Rutgers team is just not the tough as nails, hard-nosed, grind-out defensive teams that they've had in the past, and I just don't know if it works for them. They have 2 of the best players in the country, but it just doesn't seem to work. So I'm not going to get in here for a client play. I didn't get the number I wanted. I do think home court matters at the rack, and I do think that, Rutgers +2.5 is how I would play it if I had to play it, but not something that's going to make my client card. So lean Rutgers +2.5, and we will move on to total of the day. Again, I keep joking like I should start giving these out. I really should. The totals, I've never been much of a totals handicapper, but ever since we started doing total of the day on this show, they've gone great. And I don't know. Maybe I will start including them in the client service at some point. But another winner yesterday with the over in, I believe is the High Point game, got over. And they've just been really good so far. And so we're going to go for another one today. This is going to be one I'm going to look to the under, and that is UMass-Lowell and Vermont. So let's get the timer going. This is actually Vermont at UMass-Lowell. Interesting game from like a side perspective, because I understand why people would want to take a shot like as a buy low opportunity with Vermont at this number. But my numbers make UMass-Lowell like a deserving favorite here. I think UMass-Lowell is much better than Vermont this year. I think this might be the year UMass-Lowell wins this league. But I will say Vermont is coming around on the defensive end, and they looked really good over the weekend defensively against New Hampshire. Actually, they look pretty good defensively for the last month or so. I'm going to read you some of the results. Brown, 60 points. Yale, 65 points. Northeastern, 64. Colgate, 65. A very good Miami of Ohio offense, just 67. And then the wipeout game on Saturday, holding New Hampshire to just 40 points on their home floor in a 60-40 win. So, and they did get boat raced and gave up like 80-something to Dartmouth in there, but that was clearly a one-off when like 7 of the last 8 games have been really strong defensive performances. I'm looking to the under here because I think Lowell is equally as capable defensively. They have a fantastic rim defense, and Vermont just doesn't have much in the way of like a shot makers, much in the way of a sort of cohesive offense at this point. So I do agree that Vermont is starting to move in the right direction, but I think it's mostly on the defensive end of the floor. And for that reason, I like the under here. I think that there's a good chance Vermont really struggles to score against that UMass-Lowell interior D, but at the same time, Vermont could get some stops as well. So we'll make UMass-Lowell, Vermont our total of the day. Let's move on to boots on the ground. We'll get another power conference game here. I know I did like all mid-majors yesterday, so let's give the power conferences some love. And boots on the ground is someplace I went 2 years ago, which would be the Breslin Center for Washington, Michigan State. I like the Washington Huskies plus 14.5. I think this team's getting more competitive. I've kind of been saying that for now going back like maybe 5-6 weeks. I remember saying prior to the UCLA game, at some point you're just going to have to bet on Danny Sprinkle. He's a great coach. He's going to figure it out. He's going to get it done and find a way to win some games. And they actually did cover that UCLA game, and they covered over the weekend against Illinois as an underdog in a game that they really could have. I mean, they really could have won. They had that down. That game was tied with a minute to go over the weekend. And so I just look at this Michigan State team. You know, they finally got a nice win over Ohio State, but that was sort of like a big primetime standalone game. Everyone watched it. Everyone got a look at Michigan State looking good there. And like, my question is like, what's the number in this game if that game never happens, right? It's probably 11.5 or 12 where it should be, not 14.5, which is an astronomically large number for Michigan State, in my opinion, to lay at home. Michigan State's 3-0 in conference play. But again, like, Minnesota's not very good. Nebraska's okay. And you have to go back a couple weeks to find when those games were played. So I think that's a slightly deceiving 3-0. Listen, like Washington, they've got a top 100 defense. Their metrics are not that much worse than Michigan State's. And I think you've got the upside for Washington with Danny Sprinkle and his staff, and the fact Osborne hasn't played his best yet. I think all sort of points to Washington as being a play-on team. So let's go Washington, plus 14, plus 14.5. That's my lean in that game. And that brings me to the poll play. Poll's still up, by the way, although I'm going to take it down because I meant to put 3 hours, not 3 days. But the one with the most votes, when I looked at it, was Delaware. And so the poll was 4 different tech schools, and the winner was Delaware against NCAAB. Of course, the A&T, oh, there it is, does not stand for Adam Trigger. That stands for Agriculture and Technology. North Carolina Agricultural and Technology State, I believe, is the full name of that school. They host Delaware tonight, and this is a client play for me. I played NCAAB plus 4 for a 3% play. Listen, I don't think these two teams are that different. You could say Delaware is a little bit more organized, maybe a little bit more efficient offensively, but they're not that different. I feel like when I look at these teams side by side, I see teams that both make a lot of mistakes. Like Delaware turns the ball over a ton. That's one thing. Like for the mistakes NCAA and teammates, they're not ball handling related. They really don't turn it over that much. It's mostly on the defensive side for them. That's the issue. But Delaware's been absolutely horrendous on the defensive side as well. They're right down near sort of like the in danger of falling out of the top 300 nationally in defense. So, this is an interesting matchup because A&T will play fast. They like to play fast. Delaware, it seems like if they're playing a team that wants to get up and down, they will. But when Delaware plays this quick up and down game, it's very sloppy. A lot of turnovers. They don't have elite ball handling guards on that Delaware team. So, NCAA&T has been guilty of taking a lot of tough shots. But my counter to that is, look at some of the teams that A&T has had to play. They've been in a far different situation from Delaware in where they had to play a lot of bye games, a lot of games that were against power conference opposition. So, I think it's going to be easier for A&T to find shots against this Delaware defense, and Landon Glasper and Ryan Forrest can make those tough shots. So Glasper's as good of a tough shot maker as there is in this league. So I just realized I never set the timer, which is why I'm waiting for it to go off. It didn't go off. So we went a little long on this one, but that's all right because we pared it down to four plays, segments, whatever. So we had a little extra time. Long story short, +4 at home seemed like a bargain here. I've got these two teams very even. I do think A&T has a little bit of a home court edge. I just don't like Delaware. If you've listened to me talk from the beginning of the season, I just don't think this Delaware team is very good. They're outside of the top 300 in rebounding. My guess is a very sloppy game that probably stays close. You're going to give me 4 points with A&T on their home floor. I'm going to have to take it. So that's a 3% play. 3 other angles to look at. My 4% top-rated best bet is now up on my page at WagerTalk. Like and subscribe so I can continue to do this for you on a daily basis. Cash all your tickets, and we'll see you guys on Friday.